What compressor am I running on the Jeep? What interesting location did I decide to mount that compressor in? And what are the pros and cons of a budget onboard air system? Yeah, we're talking onboard air today, guys. This is gonna be fun. Hey everybody, welcome to 4x-Trail. I'm Caleb, and today we're taking a closer look at my compressor setup on the Jeep. Come check it out. Well guys, I chose the smittybilt heavy duty compressor. Now this is their larger of the two. They have a less expensive version and a more expensive version. This one is the 5.6 cubic feet per minute, and I'm definitely planning on doing a full review of this compressor soon, so I'll post the link to that video in the description below whenever it's uploaded. But for the sake of this video today, I just wanted you guys to see which compressor I chose. I've been using this compressor for about a year now. It's held up great so far, it's performed well, but let's talk about where I installed it. Well, it's not in the box anymore, so don't worry about that. I am actually sitting on this compressor right now. That's right, I installed my compressor in the back of my Jeep. Let me show you what I'm talking about. So when you lift the lid in the back of the Jeep, there's typically a plastic tray back there. I removed that and bedlined the whole area with the same bedliner I used on my hardtop. It's a great product. I'll leave a link for that video down below if you're interested. And then you'll notice I mounted the compressor sideways. Honestly, it fits perfectly like it was made for this spot. But it did take a little DIYing. I had to remove the base of the compressor. It's made to just sit on the ground, and I had to flip the brackets for that base around to the side of the compressor. That took a little DIYing, removing some bolts and dremeling on the brackets themselves to fit on the side of the compressor. But then I repurposed the little rubber feet as a grommet and just drilled 4 holes and bolted that thing in, and it is rock solid. Then the area where there's typically the OEM jack, I don't need that because I carry a bottle jack, so it's a perfect spot for the air hose and gauge. And the power switch is right there on the side, and just connect up your pigtail to your air hose and you're good to go. The lid, I did have to trim off some of this fibrous material there, and I added some heat resistant tape, just some aluminum tape that I had, just because this compressor does get pretty hot. More on that in a second. But the wiring, really simple. You know, again, it's made to clamp onto your battery terminal, so I snipped off those connectors, ran the ground line down underneath the Jeep, grounded it to the frame, and then the positive wire ran up through the carpet and connected to a heavy gauge wire. In my case, I'm running a 6 gauge wire, and that runs through the interior of the Jeep, down the inside of the door frame, underneath the plastic kick plate, under the door sill there. There's some other wires in there, so you got to be careful when you're running this wire. Comes out, pop off the side cover of the dash, and it's really cool. They've got this little port into the engine bay. It's foam, so you just have to use a coat hanger to poke through there, but it's great to run wires into the engine bay. And there's the inline fuse. The compressor has a built-in fuse as well, but I'm not running an S-Pod or anything, so an inline fuse is a must because I'm connecting directly to the battery. That's a 50 amp fuse. And obviously just make sure your fuse and your wire are sized correctly for whatever accessory that you are running. So let's talk pros and cons of this setup. Starting with the compressor, the pros are it's inexpensive and reliable and performs relatively well. The cons are it does get really, really hot. So you'll notice I had added that heat tape, but still it's just a really hot running compressor, so I like to let it cool off a little bit before I close that lid back down. And that goes for the fittings of the hose as well. Those all heat up. Just the whole thing just gets really hot. As far as the location that I installed it, the pros are it's out of the way, it's free of dust and water. You don't really know it's there until you need it, which I like. But the negatives would be it is very difficult to get to if your back is filled with gear. So if you're going on a multi-day overland trip and you've got a lot of gear back there, it was a little bit challenging for me to get to it on a longer trip that I went on. But if you do, 1 or 2 day trips, you just got a couple of toolboxes and a tent or something, it's not a big deal to get to it. For that reason alone, I'm thinking about moving it up to my engine bay just so it's easier to get to. What do you guys think though? I'd love to hear about your onboard air setups in the comments down below. I may not run this setup forever, so I'd love some ideas for the future. Also, I'm going to leave some links for the compressor and the bedliner product in the description below. That's a great way to support the channel, as well as sharing it with a friend, giving it a thumbs up, and subscribing for lots more great content here on 4x-Trail. I'll see you guys soon.